Over half the states pushing back against President Biden's vaccine mandate. And almost a quarter of the Los Angeles police force is seeking an exemption from getting the COVID-19 vaccine. That's despite a mandate for all city workers to get the shot. While NYC public schools welcomed 1 million students back for in-person learning Monday, many states are struggling. That's due to a shortage of bus drivers. In Massachusetts, the shortage is so bad the governor is activating the National Guard. And SpaceX to make history with the first civilian flight launched into space. The 4 space tourists will spend 3 days free flying through Earth's orbit. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Over half of the states are pushing back against President Biden's vaccine mandate. Governors and attorneys general in at least 27 states made comments in opposition to the mandates. All are Republicans. While they all generally support vaccinations and some of them even support vaccine mandates in private businesses, they largely oppose the notion that businesses should be forced to require vaccination, especially by the federal government. One of the strongest statements came from South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, who tweeted out, "Rest assured, we will fight them to the gates of hell to protect the liberty and livelihood of every South Carolinian." And it's not just governors and attorneys general pushing back. Almost a quarter of the Los Angeles police force is seeking an exemption from getting the COVID-19 vaccine, despite a mandate for all city workers to get the shot. That's according to a report released by LA Mayor Eric Garcetti's office. The mandate was put into place last month, and to date, more than 3,000 LAPD employees have filed for the exemption. Unvaccinated employees who report to work regularly will have to show evidence of weekly testing and a negative test result. As for the fire department, roughly 12% of employees have filed for an exemption. Nearly half of all LA city workers, including the police, are already fully vaccinated. The date for vaccination as a condition of employment is October 20th. And now, on the other side of the country, the COVID-19 vaccine is no longer mandatory for healthcare workers in New York State, at least for now. A federal judge is blocking the state's vaccine mandate. U.S. District Court Judge David Hurd granted a temporary restraining order in a lawsuit against New York Governor Kathy Hochul. That means the state's vaccine mandate is suspended, but the lawsuit is still ongoing. 17 healthcare workers filed a lawsuit. They argue that the vaccine mandate would nullify protections for sincere religious beliefs. Their religious beliefs compel them to refuse vaccines that use aborted fetus cell lines in testing, development, or production. The plaintiff's attorney, Christopher Ferrara, said in a statement, "Never in the history of New York State, never in the history of the world, has the government sought to forcibly impose mass vaccination on an entire class of people under threat of immediate personal and professional destruction." Then New York Governor Andrew Cuomo imposed the mandate in August, and at least one hospital is having a staffing crisis because of it. Lewis County General Hospital in upstate New York said last week they won't be able to deliver babies anymore. That's because 6 workers in its maternity ward resigned of the vaccine mandate. And now a new poll shows the majority of New Yorkers support the vaccine requirements and indoor mask mandates for teachers and school staff. That's according to a poll from Siena College, released Tuesday. It found 69% of the registered voters polled think it should be a requirement for public school teachers and other school employees to get the COVID-19 vaccine. That's compared to 26% who opposed it. And as to the question of whether public school teachers, staff, and students are required to wear masks indoors, the poll found 78% voted in favor, while 18% opposed. This comes as protests against the vaccine mandate broke out across the city. Hundreds gathered in Foley Square in Lower Manhattan on Monday to protest the mandates. People heard chanting, "Save New York." The group then appeared to make its way to the Brooklyn Bridge, where the chants were against Biden. This comes as 1 million students are back to in-person learning in New York City. Mayor Bill de Blasio says the healthiest place for kids to be is in school. And he says safety measures are in place to help kids have a positive and safe school year. This time around, things are a little different. Students must wear masks, keep a 3-foot distance, and have their temperature checked before entering. But not all states had such successful school openings. That's because many states are struggling to find bus drivers. In Massachusetts, the shortage is so bad the governor is activating the National Guard. It's the latest and maybe most extreme approach to curbing a nationwide shortage of school bus drivers. 90 members of the Massachusetts National Guard are trained to protect their country, are now training to transport school kids. Superintendent Almia Bea of Chelsea Schools near Boston says 2 weeks into the year and she's still short 15 drivers, meaning 1 in every 5 buses has run late. Now, the Guard will drive 10 passenger school transport vans in her district and 3 others. Schools returning to in-person classes say coronavirus fears pushed more drivers to retire. It is the worst shortage ever. That's according to administrators in Fairfax County, Virginia, outside of Washington. The district is now paying new bus drivers a $3,000 sign-on bonus. Other schools are turning to parents to pick up the slack. One charter school in Delaware is paying them $700 for each child they drive to and from school this year. Philadelphia parents in a similar program are getting up to $1,500 for the year. Republican Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker says the best tactic is using citizen soldiers already called on during the pandemic to get behind the wheel. He tweeted out, "The safe and reliable transportation to school each day is critical to our children's safety and education." This is also a problem for Boston public schools. Last Thursday was the first day of class. Only 57% of buses arrived on time. It says it is still awaiting further details about National Guard help. And this is a problem everywhere. Some states are getting desperate. A Montana school district offered $4,000 bonuses and invited residents to test drive buses. And as for the Pittsburgh public schools, the Washington Post reports that the driver shortage delayed the return to classrooms by 2 weeks. So why is there such a shortage? The CEO of school ride service company Hop Skip Drive, Joanna McFarland, told AP that's because half of the bus drivers are 65 years old or older and so are more vulnerable to the virus. Another factor is economic. That's because driving a school bus requires a commercial driver's license that can take weeks to obtain. And people who have them can often find higher paying work that doesn't require splitting the day for pickup and drop-off. McFarland told AP demand for commercial drivers is only increasing with a pandemic-related surge in online shopping. But others note working with children can be rewarding. Dan Redford with First Student in Helena, Montana, told AP that contractors say the hours work well for stay-at-home parents or retirees seeking to supplement their income. He adds there's no requirements to work nights, weekends, or holidays as a bus driver. And for those who want more hours, field trips and sporting events are options. First Student is a company that contracts bus service for school districts around the county. And now before we end, 4 space tourists are set to see space for the first time and make history doing so. For the first time ever, a group of non-professional astronauts will launch as part of SpaceX's Inspiration 4 mission. It's the first orbital mission in the history of spaceflight to be staffed entirely of non-astronauts. The crew features a billionaire, a cancer survivor, a geologist, and a raffle winner. But before these passengers blast off, they had to train for what it would feel like in microgravity. Zero Gravity Corporation uses a modified Boeing 727 flying in parabolic motion to create multiple spurts of weightlessness. Richard Branson acclimated himself to zero Gs on one before he went into space, as did the crew of Inspiration 4, the first all-civilian flight into orbit.
You don't want your first experience in zero gravity to be in space, and it's a very unique feeling, and this gives them the framework to understand it.
Unlike Jeff Bezos or Richard Branson's flights, this plane isn't on a rocket aimed at space. An airspace of 10 miles by 100 miles is cleared for a G-Force 1 flight. Their mission is scheduled to launch from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida on Wednesday, barring any weather issues. Inspiration 4 is set to whip around the planet once every 90 minutes. After the 3 days, the spacecraft will dive back into the atmosphere and splash down off the coast of Florida. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.